That's me. Class 6, 10 years old. I can't forget that day, the day the picture was shot. That morning our teacher, I don't have to circle her, that morning our teacher asked us, what do you want to become in life? The roll call started. Engineer, doctor, lawyer, CA, sportsman, and then suddenly it was my turn. She looked at me. I was very clear in my mind what I wanted to say, although I was nervous. And then I said, Miss, I want to be happy. She was startled. She possibly did not know how to grade that answer. So she again asked me, what is it that you want to do? I repeated, I said, Miss, I want to be happy. She said, hey, that's an emotion. That's a state of mind. That's not ambition. That evening, she wrote in my report card, languages, excellent. Arithmetic and algebra, brilliant. Science, very, very good. History, civics and geography, excellent. And in that note that teachers write underneath, she wrote, but this boy does not know what he wants to do in life. In other words, at the age of 10, in a subject, if I can call it that, in a subject called Career 101, I had failed. But looking back today, many, many years from that August morning in the state of Odisha, my teacher, I don't think, and for that matter, none of us could have ever imagined how the world will change, how careers would change. Today, an engineer has to fight codes that are written by machines. Today, a radiologist does a job of reading reports that's far inferior to what AI can do. Today, generative AI can write legal briefs for lawyers much, much better than what their juniors can. And why today, teachers themselves use a very interesting personal assistant called ChatGPT. Today, therefore, there is a challenge. If someone were to ask, what is it that you want to become? Today, there is a lot of doubt because many of these jobs are going up in smoke thanks to AI. But yet, today, if someone were to ask, do you want to be happy in life? The answer would be an unequivocal yes. This morning and this afternoon, we heard a slew of speakers tell us wonderful stories of how they had risen from the bottom of the pyramid. I'll try to tell you that in case you fall apart, what is the road that you could possibly adopt and what are the pit stops on that particular road. I'm going to talk about the first of what I call two models. When I was in school, the finish line used to be get into engineering or get into medicine. The best and brightest boys and the best and brightest girls either wanted to get into IIT or get into IIM. We all thought that when we get into the portals of such wonderful institutions, our life would be sorted out and we would be very happy. But the moment we stepped into those institutions, we realized, we understood that the finish line was moving because suddenly grades were important. Suddenly we said, if only I can top the class, it will be excellent. When we got into corporate India, again the finish line changed. We suddenly told ourselves, if we can get promoted fast, that would be good. We told ourselves that if we can reach the corner office, hold the job of a CEO very, very early, that would be wonderful. You realize how the finish line has been changing. There are people who have even said that if only my boss took early retirement, that would be great. And there are many who tell themselves that if only I can go for that vacation in Zurich, things would be wonderful. The simple point, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is that if we get trapped in this if-then model, then we are doomed. Because if we get trapped in that particular model, it means that we are allowing or we are wanting the world to work for us. And the world is very, very unlikely to come together. The planets are unlikely to come together to sort your life out. It is therefore important and pertinent that we must take charge of our own lives. I move on to try and show you this. Anyone, what is it that you spot there? There's a rainbow. How does a rainbow normally look when you see a rainbow up the sky? It looks wonderful. Have you ever told yourself that if only this rainbow was 1 feet to the left or 1 feet to the right, it would have been much, much better? We have never said that. That, gentlemen and friends, is the moral of the story, that it is very, very important for us to accept the world as it is. I'm not the one to tell anybody that don't be ambitious. I'm not the one to tell anybody that don't be aspirational. But I'm the one who wants to tell you that do not let these cloud what you can do. Take a look at this. I walked into a restaurant a couple of years back. I wanted to have a plate of idli. And then on that restaurant menu, there were a string of types of idlis. There was a plain idli, there was a rava idli, there was a ragi idli, there was a podi idli, there was a tattu idli, and there were many other types of idlis. Same ingredients, but they brought different levels of happiness to people. Some people wanted to eat sambar idli, some other want to eat some other forms of idli. There are two lessons that come out of this, and I want you to grasp both of them. Lesson number one is that different things give different people sources of happiness. I might be extremely happy eating sambar idli. You might be extremely happy eating rava idli. If you translate that into real life, I might be very happy buying a car. You might be very happy going to Wharton and doing further education. It's therefore important for all of us not to be judgmental. It's therefore important for all of us to let others, including ourselves, decide what brings us happiness. I said there are two lessons. There's a second one as well. You cannot eat the same type of idli multiple times. Okay? You would like to eat one form of idli today, another form of idli tomorrow. How does it translate in life? In life, it means that happiness is not in a horizontal box. Happiness does not mean I buy one house, I buy then two houses, I buy a third house, I buy a still bigger house. No. Happiness lies in buying a house, buying a car, picking up education in Wharton, doing X, doing Y, doing Z, in other words, multiple things. What's therefore important for all of us to understand in this changing world of AI is that AI or ChatGPT or whatever you call that can look into your past data and tell you which is the form of idli that you have often eaten. But it can never tell you that today, which idli if you eat, you will be very happy. So we need to understand that point there as well. That's model number two, therefore. What it means is that embrace diversity. Tomorrow when you go into walk into the classroom, don't be judgmental, say, hey, this guy is doing this, that guy is doing something else. Because different things, like I said, bring happiness to different people. If you don't become judgmental, if you begin to start embracing diversity, I think a lot of happiness will come your way. And picking on happiness, like I said right at the beginning, is important, because half the trouble in falling down or run down, as it was said, is about people who are unhappy. Half the thing that talked about resilience is about taking the road towards happiness. And half the thing about rising is to look at the 5 pit stops that I'll talk to you soon. I said I'll talk to you about 5 pit stops on the road to happiness. I call them the 5 F's of happiness. Sometimes I even add a 6th. You might wonder, where is F in that happiness? It is not there. It's not there at all. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there are a few things which are very, very important, and the first of them is fame. You want to be happy, you should pick up fame. When I say fame, I don't mean how many likes you will get on that Instagram post of yours. I don't mean whether your YouTube goes viral, your YouTube post goes viral. I don't mean that you should become the next Shah Rukh Khan, or you should become the next Deepika Padukone. That's not what we are talking about. We are talking about people who can make an impact on other people's life. In other words, we should become people who are part of somebody else's story. I'll give you this example, though I'm not very fond of giving personal examples. Some months ago, on the busy streets of Delhi, when I was traveling, a car stops at the traffic signal. The guy rolls his glass down, waves at me, and tells me that, "Sir, I attended your class in 2010. Now, 2010 is donkeys years ago. And he says that you were the first person who helped me know that I can achieve something bigger." Now that's becoming part of somebody else's story. Fame is about being recognized, say, in an elevator in Dubai. Or fame is about being recognized on a flight from, let us say, Vancouver to New York. And you can do all that, provided, like I said earlier, you become part of somebody else's story. That's the first F that I wanted to talk about. And I wanted to tell you that true fame is about being authentic. Second important thing, and on this I want to spend a minute, is about a family. They are the emotional anchor. A few years ago, my wife, a medical doctor, battled what turned out to be a terminal illness. My parents, who had all along lived in a completely different city, changed cities to live one apartment below where I lived. And I think their arrival suddenly made me feel 10 years younger. Suddenly I was no longer just a husband trying to fight a lonely battle to save his wife, but suddenly I was once again the child of a parent with whom I could share difficulties. In other words, the family may not be the ones who turn up to you every time, but they are the ones who come, on whom you can actually count when the chips are down. And as someone once said, happiness does not lie in solving every problem. You will not be able to solve every problem. But happiness lies in being able to surround yourself with people with whom you can share your problems. And the family is one of them. So if you have a good family, there is every reason that you can be happy. The third one I talk about is about friends. What do you see there on the clock? 3. They are what my professor of economics in the last day of my college said. He talked about 3 a.m. friends. He said, in life, 30 years from that date, the date when we graduated from college, he said 30 years later, if you can count on your fingers 3 people who are your 3 a.m. friends, it means you would have been very happy in life. What he meant was 3 people to whom you could make a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they would not ask you, why did you call? You could call them, you could talk to them, you could cry over their shoulders. They are not your WhatsApp group friends. They are not your social media friends. but they are the ones with whom you can share. A friend of mine who was undergoing a divorce told me that what saved her sanity was that she had three friends who would come to her house every Friday during those very, very hard and difficult days, who would come every Friday, talk with her, stay silent, or have fun with her, etc. And she said that is what actually saved her sanity. So it's very important to build good friends, and when you have good, deep 3 a.m. friends, your life is actually, I think, half sorted out. It's very, very important, therefore, boys and girls, that you must invest in friendships. Let's look at the fourth one. This is about fortune or money. I don't know what your professors in college tell you, but there are many people who tell you money is not important. These are the people who have made cartloads of money. I tell you money is important because if you have money, you can get out of a toxic job. If you have money, you will not have that problem where you walk into a hospital and then have to walk out because you don't have enough money. Money is important because you can then choose to lead a life of yours. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying money or fortune is the only F that you must chase. All that I'm saying is that it's one of the important F's on the road to happiness. This is very important. It talks about fitness. There is this quote that somebody once told me that in his generation, the problem was that somebody might die too young and therefore put the family in a spot of bother. And he said that today, the greatest risk is that somebody might live too long. My generation itself is living up to the 80s or a little beyond that. I am fairly clear, based on all the studies that have been done, that your generation will live well into its 100. And if you've got to live well into your 100, you need to be really fit. And therefore, guys who are fit are, if you look at it, pretty happy. It's even the other way around. Those who are happy, they also turn out to be fit. The last one, I said 5, that's the bonus 6, is about future. The future is not something that comes one bright morning. It's not that you wake up and suddenly say, hey, here is the future. Future is something that keeps happening. It's a kind of work in progress. And if it is a kind of work in progress, if you imagine that your future is good, and for the future to be good, these 5 things have to be good, the things that I spoke to you about, then I think happiness will be on your side. I'm going to close out. I'm going to close out by going back to my teacher. That's a teacher whom I have never met after she quit our school. That's a teacher whom I have always wanted to meet because she was she was our favorite teacher. Today, if she meets me, and today, if she asks me, what is it that you're doing? I would tell her that I'm practicing as a CA, but I'm still looking out on the path to happiness. I would also tell her that I have found out one warning signal, the if-then model on happiness. I would also tell her that I have discovered one of many other models, the one being that diversity is what is critical and that there are various layers of happiness. I would also tell her that there are 6 pit stops on the road to happiness, and I, along with many others who studied in that school, in that class, are trying to walk that path. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention.